Welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast. I'm Tamiko Pugh, also known as the Empowering Diva. Each week, you'll hear inspirational interviews as well as actionable tips and strategies that you can implement into your daily life to help you live a life of passion, purpose, and potential. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump into today's episode of Living the Empowered Life. Are you the go-to person in your group of friends? Do you have a zest for life and enjoy helping others reach their full potential? Do you feel a calling to make a difference in the world? If this is you, then you may want to consider becoming a life coach. We have a virtual online training starting soon. Our life coach training focuses on helping women who desire to motivate, inspire, and empower other women by using their skills, expertise, and experience to thrive as a personal development coach. Using the empowerment formula, participants will learn step-by-step tools, tips, and techniques needed to attract great clients and build a thriving, purposeful, and profitable coaching business. Get all the details and register at www.tamikolori.com/life coach training. Welcome to another episode of Living the Empowered Life podcast. I'm your host, the Empowering Diva, Tamiko Pugh. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with grief and loss strategist Cortne Smith. As a wife again, a widow who married a widower, Cortne is an example of love after love, living fully and loving unconditionally. As a relationship life coach and grief specialist, she empowers the left behind to thrive with the loss of a loved one. Cortne educates people to move beyond the could've and should've into the what will be the new normal as host and producer of the Master Relationship Mechanic Show. Hi, Cortne. Welcome to Living the Empowered Life podcast. How are you?
Doing wonderful. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so excited to have you. You know, Cortne, there is a lot going on in the world. You keep hearing people say things like cancel 2020. People are dealing with grief and loss. We have COVID-19, social justice issues. So many things are happening. And, you know, I think that the work that you do as a grief and loss strategist is really needed now more than ever, right? So can you just tell us a little bit about what you do as a grief and loss strategist?
My main goal as a grief and loss strategist is really to take people where they're not trying to get back to normal. I think on this journey, especially, and I say that right here in COVID, a lot of people are waiting for normal to happen again. And when you lose something, whether it's something that's physical to death, or it is a job, or it is finances, or it's just some type of shift that you weren't preparing for, we're all sitting back or trying to get back to normal. And the reality is normal will never come. So I'm trying to help people embrace the new now, embrace what is coming, embrace their next steps, pick up the pieces around that, and really understanding that their victory is actually in the change. Their victory is actually in what's new. So not trying to focus on getting back to how it was, but really just saying, how can we change so that our later really can be greater? Our next step is going to be better. That's my goal, is giving people that formula, giving people that strategy so they can let go of control of what was and start running to what is.
Wow, that is really good. People not trying to get back to normal. You just helped me, Cortne, because oftentimes you're like, I just want to get back to normal. When am I going to be normal again? And it even takes me back 13 years ago to when I left an abusive marriage. And I remember just going through this process of feeling like, when am I going to be normal again? But there was not an opportunity to be normal again, right? There was just something new, and I had to embrace where I was at that moment. And you said victory is in the change. And one of the things I had to realize was that there was a new Tamiko taking place. I wasn't the same insecure person that was in that relationship. But I just think about the things that we go through and we're like, man, I just want to be normal again, right? When am I going to be normal? And so you say normal will never come. Embrace the new now. I think that is so powerful. So powerful, especially for where we are today.
Yeah. That's just one of the, I think, the most powerful things we can actually tell somebody when they are grieving. Things will never be the same. We mislead people and say normal is going to come. Just give it time, and that's an illusion we give people. And they sit around waiting for normal. When if you give them permission, that's what you're doing when you say, "Hey, I know things won't be the same." You're giving them permission to be different. You're giving them permission to change. You're giving them permission to evolve then.
That's true. Very true. So who would be your target audience then, with the work that you do?
It's funny you say that. When I began this journey, it was really my targeted audience was just women who are going on it. But it's amazing how we have an ability that's innate within us, like butterflies, to evolve. Actually, 80% of my clients usually are male now. They
Really?
are, because they're the group of people who really don't talk about being hurt. They don't really, it's not normal in society for them to grieve or to cry or to mourn. So to come talk to me in this safe place is something that they have found. So I wouldn't say I actually target them. That's who are attracted to this place, this little safe place that I've created, because they can stay anonymous to everybody else that they're getting help. So it's a place that men can say, okay, I can go talk to this lady. She's probably just as crazy as I am in this space. And she will allow me just to pour out everything. And then we can start over and find that new path for the new. So I would say that's men who are actually just struggling with starting over and saying, hey, I got to let go.
Wow. So important. It's so important that men have the opportunity to open up because they're expected to be strong and to be macho and you know what I mean, suppressing their feelings. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And 80% of your clients are male. So that's a good thing. Giving them that opportunity to have that safe space where they can open up.
Yeah, I'm happy for that. And I really think it starts off. My husband always says he started off as my first client. So if I can get through to him and make him change, there is no man that I can't talk to to help him see a new path. So if that's the example of what it takes from grief to bringing somebody who's thriving and really enjoying life, I'll take that.
Right, I got you on that one. So, what has the impact of COVID-19 had what impact has COVID-19 had on birthing your platform?
It made me pivot, and I think that's the greatest thing during COVID. We will have to pivot, and we had to pivot and reposition ourselves. So I had to realize that I couldn't go talk to people in hospitals, go talk to people at hospices or actually at the funeral home. So I had to figure out, okay, we're going to have to build this virtual platform to talk to people about this conversation because we don't want to just stop talking about it. So we created a virtual platform where we speak on a plethora of topics that you go through on this grief journey, from what to do after death does us part to just some of the things that you should say to people when they're grieving. So we can have this healthy grief conversation because we talk about a lot of things in this world, but we never prepare for death. We always say we want to get to heaven, but nobody believes that death is going to happen to get to heaven. So we leave off forgetting how to prepare people and have that conversation and actually how to progress in life after somebody passes.
Yes, that's so true. Like that you said, pivot and reposition, right? So many of us had to do that when COVID-19 hit. It's like, what are we going to do? I like how you said pivot and reposition yourself, repositioning your message, and the way that we actually serve people, right? We had to change it up and kind of reposition that thing. And so I love that statement, pivot and reposition.
Yeah, that was just something that was, a lot of times when change happens, we shut our doors and say, okay, we'll just wait till it's over until it gets back to normal. And the thing is, even if some type of normalcy shows back up, it does not give you the same opportunity to show back up in the same way. So we have to be prepared to change and not let our businesses die, not let our messages die, not let whatever it is that how we're serving to die. So it just gave us another way to serve a different group of people in other places.
Right, right. So, Courtney, you're a widow, and you actually married a widower. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Was it intentional? Was it by chance? How did that come about?
I always say God has a very good sense of humor.
He does.
Every time I say I'm never going to do something, God makes it my forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the funny part is we both had separate conversations with God and saying we aren't ever getting married again. He said, "Oh, okay, sounds like a plan." So that was our plan.
Right.
And the funny part is we did not know each other at all, period, prior to getting married. I mean, of course, prior to meeting each other, let me say that, not prior to getting married. So people don't be like, woo.
Mm-hmm.
So
I got you.
let me clarify that a little bit for people listening. The journey was actually 8 months because our spouses died same month, same year in 2012. So 8 months later, we were actually introduced by my coworker who was his brother. And I always say people around you get tired of you talking about grief. So 8 months later, he was still talking to his brother about his wife passing, and his brother did not want to hear it anymore. And I was on the road traveling with his brother because we were out doing a training. And he said, "You don't never talk to me about grief." He said, "Can you talk to my brother?" Because it was like he was just like getting on his nerves. So that's a lesson on everybody don't want to hear about your grief, even the people who closest to you. My husband is a mobile mechanic. Even though he was still on the road as a cross the road driver dealing hazardous material when we first met, but he always has been a mobile mechanic. So under the guise of coming to fix my truck, I was supposed to be fixing him. That was my assignment from his brother to get him to stop talking about grief.
Wow.
So when he came to fix my truck, 45 days later, we got married. So he been keeping my truck fixed and I've been keeping him fixed and we've been rolling on. So this New Year's Eve, we will be celebrating 8 years. So to answer your question, no, it was not planned because we had planned never to get married. So it was definitely not a plan to meet somebody else who was going through grief, because that is another journey of dealing with their grief and dealing with your grief that everybody can't necessarily carry.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely get that. I love how you said he's a mobile mechanic, right? He fixed your car and you fixed him.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. And so, in your bio, it talks about you being an example of love after love, living fully and loving unconditionally. And as you're talking, I can definitely see that. Like that is definitely you.
Yes, it's one thing that we do, and I would say that's an example of us, because one thing is a lot of people say, "I'll never marry, I'll never do this, I'll never do this." And we shut ourselves off and we put ourselves in a place that we're never open to meet anybody, or we shut our hearts down. Even if we meet somebody, we've become so cold. And I'm not necessarily advocating remarriage, but I'm definitely advocating self-love, because when you shut your heart down not to love anybody else, you cannot love yourself either. So I'm advocating self-love for people first. And then if it is meant to be, you will attract a life mate, or you will attract a circle of people to be your companions for the rest of the journey. So that's what I say. I advocate love after love, keeping your heart in a place where you are continually attracting love. We attract people around us that want to live, that want to love. We have no restrictions on what we do. Whatever it is, we will not be taking regrets for it, because we already know how life is so short. So we don't plan to say, okay, we're going to do this the next 10 or 20 years. When we say, hey, it's something we want to do, we get about our business and we get it done, because we know that is what it's meant to be. And then we do it fully. It's with life with no regrets. And so that's what we're advocating for people. Love unconditionally. Don't let it get caught up where you cutting people off. Relationships are too valuable. So we're in a place where we're telling people to reconcile, restore what you can, as long as people are willing to step into your newness as well.
Right. And you mentioned the importance of self-love. I think that is extremely important that we make sure that we're focusing on self-love so that we can in turn be able to actually receive love and give love to other people. But as you were talking, one of the things that came to mind was guilt. And I'm wondering, do a lot of people feel guilty about dating again or getting remarried? And is that one of the things that will kind of hold them back or make them be a little bit cold, you know what I mean, and not really open to a new relationship?
A lot of times it's not guilt. Most of my clients is fear.
That's good. It's not good, but I like how you flip that from guilt to fear.
It's really fear, because they don't want to lose anybody again, or they don't want somebody else to suffer what they have suffered, or it is that whole fear that that person won't live up to the image of what they've already had, so they have to get out of a place of comparison. So it's really, when you're talking about love, people have to realize that they don't have control over how long they have it. They don't control over how it happens. So once we say, okay, fear is something saying, I don't have control over it. And when you realize that you can give up control, you don't have to fear falling in love anymore. You don't have to fear being loved. And really, that's how what it is. Fear becomes that wall we build between us and other people. And fear is more of what it is than guilt, because most people don't feel like, I don't want to love anybody because I've already lost somebody. It's more, I don't want to lose anybody else again. And in that fear, they actually begin to imprison other people in their lives to keep them from living fully, because they're afraid they're going to do things that are too dangerous and they're going to lose them, as if we can prevent from life from happening.
Oh, Courtney, you really just kind of broke that whole thing down. Because I always think about, I wonder if she feels guilty or if they feel guilty, but understanding the fear and the fears that they have behind that. Now it makes so much more sense to me. So thank you for breaking that down.
Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of people probably see it like you do. They feel guilty about maybe they could have done something differently. Maybe they should have been doing this. We see that in the media. A lot of times people, especially in celebrities, they'll write, oh, well, the wife should have been doing this, should have showed up to more. At the end of the day, if we realize God is God, his will is going to happen, the guilt subsides, even if there was guilt, even if we try to put labels on people in society. The real thing that keeps us from moving in life, fear is the most powerful. Fear is way more powerful than guilt, and people don't realize that.
Fear is more powerful than guilt. Wow. Courtney, so you mentioned that your husband was a mobile mechanic, and so I can't help but ask this question. You have the Relationship Mechanic Show. Can you tell us a little bit about that? And my question is, Does that have anything to do with your husband being a mobile mechanic?
Let me say this. Everything came together at a perfect kind of time. Our actual business name is the Relationship Service Station. So the servicing and the station. So we're relationship mechanics, which fits within our ability to be mobile. So yes, it was inspired by what he does as for his livelihood. So it makes it very easy when we make analogies and everything to evolve in that space. And so the Master Relationship Mechanics show actually evolves around the master being God as the master of our lives. And when we say that, it's about us aligning it and having our best relationships with God, self, and others. And we can get that in order and the priority wise on the Master Relationship Mechanics Show, we can take everything to God. So we have coaches and people come talk about the show, how to align our lives and get back with God being a priority, and then how we can prosper in those other areas in our lives.
Oh, that's good. I love that. I love how you pulled all that together. So, Cortne, one of the topics you talk about a lot is peace with pain and embracing the new now, which you shared a little bit about embracing the new now, because oftentimes we think about getting back to normal again. But let's talk about peace with pain. What does that mean to you?
I know a lot of people say that makes no sense. But if we really look up the true definition of what peace is within the middle of chaos, not within the middle of a perfect situation. Because if the situation is perfect, that means you don't need peace. So what we're doing is when we're in pain with something, we're saying, hey, I need your perfect peace, God. That means I don't need to understand the situation or the circumstances or what's going on around me. And we, as in the flesh, we want to understand everything. We want to why, we want to lay it out plain, and we want God to explain that to us. But we have to make peace not having the answer. And that's the key to having peace in the pain, is letting go of the control and saying, I trust God. And really stepping in that place that we say we are when we say we are believers. Because it's easy for us to say, I'm at peace when everything is going well. But can I say I'm at peace when everything is going in chaos, when I am hurting, and saying, God, I believe you're going to heal me. I know you're helping me. I know you're walking with me. I know you're carrying in me, and truly believe in that. And I stand on having peace no matter what is going around with me. I never let anybody or anything or any situation disturb my peace. And so when I say you have peace, you have to really say, I've given control over to God to be able to say, I have peace, to have that perfect peace and not have to have understanding.
Peace in the middle of chaos. Perfect peace. And it all makes sense. We oftentimes want to know why, right? So it's like we can't have peace of mind because we want to know, why is this happening, and how am I going to get out of the storm, and what's next? And we're asking all these questions, and it prevents us from really having that peace that you're talking about, right? Because we don't understand it and we want to have control. And like you said, if we have full trust in God, we can have peace in pain. And that's what I got out of that, right? If we have trust, then we can have peace with pain. I love how you just so eloquently explained that.
Yeah. And when you were given that analogy, the ship, if we can go back to the scripture where the disciples were freaking out in the storm because the boat was going to be torn up in the storm, but they didn't realize the power of the word that they already had. They had Jesus. And that's each and every one of us have Jesus within us. If we're proclaiming to be a part of the Christian body, we need to understand that we have the Jesus within us that can calm every storm around us, but we don't call on him. We call on our mama, we call on our finances, we call on all of these worldly things and never connect to the Jesus within us. So if we want the storm to stop, all we got to do is wake the Jesus up that we let sleep in us, because we don't call on his power.
Wake the Jesus up that we let sleep in us. Ooh, girl, you like dropping some nuggets today. That's a powerful statement right there, Courtney. The work that you're doing is so purposeful, and I often believe that there are certain things that we go through in life that lead us to our life purpose. And one of the principles of living the empowered life is to live a life of purpose. And as we're talking, I mean, I just see purpose all over you. And do you think your situation with becoming a widow, do you believe that that's called you into your purpose?
It allowed me to experience something in a different way, which allowed me to get a new tool and a new ability to be able to walk in a different way. Yeah, because I don't think if I had not experienced that particular loss, I mean, I've lost other things. I've lost jobs. I've lost finances. I've lost home, cars, but I needed to feel that particular loss in order to be able to actually minister to other people in this place.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Right.
yeah, I could have talked about loss, but I don't think I would have be able to talk about grieving and moving past mourning and actually saying, okay, I know what the inner struggle is. I don't know what your particular relationship was, but I know what the inner struggle is. I know what the emotional roller coaster can look like if you don't make a decision to get off of it. Yeah, so I know God had to take me through that particular situation. I mean, because I lost my grandfather, and that was like the love of my life, I thought, until I lost a spouse, you know. So I lost in a different way, something that touched, something that was a little bit closer. And God said, I needed you to understand the closeness, to understand that relationship in order to be able to speak to people in a different way.
Yes. Well, you're definitely living and walking in your purpose. The work that you're doing is much needed. It is a necessity. And you actually have a few things coming up, right? You have a Thrive 4-day conference coming up in January. Can you
Yes,
tell us a
yes.
little bit about that?
Yes. It is thriving through loss. And I said through the loss. A lot of times, just like COVID, you really don't realize how many people this loss has created, some millionaires, billionaires, some new things that have been coming out. They thrive through the loss. And at the beginning of the year, I want people to see that sometimes dirt is not bad. Sometimes being buried helps you grow. So we're going to be, and it's 4 days, it's going to be 21 hours. I'm a numbers person. It's very specific what God gave me to stick with a particular time frame. So everything is definitely orchestrated by God because on the 5th, we will be talking about grace. On the 6th, we will be talking about God's perfect peace. On the 7th, we will be talking about God's wholeness. And then on the 8th, we will be talking about new beginnings. So everything lines up in the numerical place. 21 hours we will be doing so that way people create a new habit, a new life, stepping into something, a new beginning. So everything is the shift, and it will be actually 12 speakers coming about. So it will be like a disciple place. That people will be giving strategies according to God's word and what it is that they have specialties in. So it will be a powerful event. And I know this is going to probably sound crazy. It is a free virtual event. I have this thing, and I know my husband, he said, is get paid for what you do, but it always comes back. I can never outgive God. So there is going to be a place, of course, that people can give us seeds and bless us and grace us, but it's free because I don't want people to miss out on something that God has created because they aren't able to have a dollar amount at this particular season in their life.
Right, right. Wow, that's so important. I love that you said that because I believe that it is in our serving that we will receive, right? And, I teach a training, a life coach training and certification. And I always tell my students, because they're like, well, how do I sell? I said, you don't sell, you serve. It is in your serving that people will be attracted to you. It's in your serving that you'll begin to receive everything, that is supposed to come to you. But I think this is definitely going to be an amazing conference. The topics you're going to be discussing: grace, peace, wholeness, new beginnings. I think that's going to be amazing. So, how can people sign up for the conference?
We will be on Eventbrite, and it's going to be thriving. So all they have to do is go to Eventbrite, and not thriving, go to Thrive Through Loss, Eventbrite, Thrive Through Loss. And that is how they can register, or they can go to my website at relationshipservicestation.com, and it will be on the events page.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Cortne. You have been amazing. Before I let you go, I want to make sure that you've had an opportunity to share everything that was on your heart. So do you have a final thought or charge for the audience at this time?
I will give you my daily affirmation is that my today will be better than yesterday. And I say that at the end of every show that I do on Saturday. I say that because we have control over what we walk into. So you might not have control over your right now, but your today, this moment can be better than yesterday if you do something different. So I just want everybody to embrace different. Different is not a bad word. So embrace different so that your later can really be greater. And later does not have to be 20 years. Later can be this very next moment you embrace can be better than just the moment that just happened if you make a conscious change to really see God in everything.
Thank you, Cortne. I love that. My today will be better than yesterday. Thank you so much for sharing with us, for talking about a very important topic that we all need to learn more about. So thank you for doing the purposeful work that you're doing.
Thank you for having me here and sharing.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Living the Empowered Life podcast. I hope that you enjoyed my conversation with my guest, Cortne Smith, and that you were able to draw some inspiration as you continue your journey of living an empowered life. And remember, the real art is finding peace in the midst of chaos. What if you could make a difference in the world using your expertise, your experience, and your story? When you write a self-help book, you have the power to help other people address their most pressing personal and professional issues while also finding your success as an author. If you're a survivor of life's adversities, if you have an expertise or experience that can make a profound impact on the world, then I invite you to register for my free training, How to Write a Self-Help Book in 30 Days. In this free training, you'll learn the 5 keys to writing a successful self-help book, how to craft an outline, how to create a writing schedule, and actually stick to it. You'll also learn how to brainstorm book ideas using your personal story, your expertise, and your life experiences. This training is free, but you must register at tinyurl.com/author training. So ladies, listen. It's time to discover and live your life purpose. It's time to value yourself. It's time to set goals that are going to move you forward in life. It's time to rebuild your confidence. It's time to fearlessly walk in your authentic power. And ladies, it's time to live the empowered life.